picture. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Great. Let's see, how are we doing on time? Yeah, we should let you get on with your day. We'll kind of wrap up kind of in backwards order, but kind of think back to when you got started with Khan Academy and thinking about what other teachers that are about to embark on this journey might, encounter. And just some areas to maybe touch on would be, how did you incorporate Khan into the existing curriculum? And how did you frame Khan within the context of like district benchmarks or standardized tests? And we'll just start there.
Okay. Starting out with the Khan Academy, we introduced this in the middle of the year. Our class started December 1st, so we had already kind of started in one direction, and it was a challenge to switch gears a little bit, but it was a good challenge, and I'm very glad this opportunity came along. But as far as integrating Khan Academy into the curriculum, I've probably done that more than the other fifth grade teachers have. The fifth grade teachers have the luxury of having 90-minute classes. So they can do 40, 45 minutes of Khan Academy and 40, 45 minutes of their curriculum, and they tend to keep that pretty separate. Since my classes range from 36 minutes to 46 minutes, depending on the day, I don't have that luxury. So what I've really tried to do with the Khan Academy is to integrate my curriculum as much as possible. And as they add modules, that becomes more and more appropriate and easier to do. So, so I've basically worked through all the modules myself. I've viewed a lot of the videos myself, and I figured out, where our curriculum overlaps with the Khan Academy and where there are gaps. And I've tried to let the Khan Academy know where there are some gaps, and they filled those in. But where possible, I'll try and let Sal do some of the teaching. I'll do some of the teaching as well and change it up a little bit. I love to use modules for homework because I can see who did their homework when they come to class. We don't have to spend time grading it because they're getting immediate feedback as they're working on it. So that's very, very helpful. And then we can kind of move on we can touch base and then move on to other things. Excuse me. So wherever possible, I try to use the Khan Academy in conjunction with my curriculum. Where there is not the overlap, I let the kids do their individual goals. And so they're working on it constantly, maybe even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes at the beginning of class, and then we're moving on to other things. But where there is that overlap, we'll use the Khan Academy all during the class period in one way, shape, or form, some way, shape, or form, depending on, what the topic is.
So do you typically use it every day, sometimes a little bit less, or are there certain days that you use it at all?
There are some days I don't use it at all, just in the interest of time, because our classes are so short. And like before this week, there were about 2 weeks where I don't think we used it at all, just because we had testing, we had shortened schedules, and our content that we were covering didn't overlap with the Khan Academy at all. And so it was a logistics issue. Now that we're finished with testing and moving on to other things, we're using it daily, even if it is just for 10 or 15 minutes on personal goals, and the rest of the time on other content, we are using it. I try to use it daily if at all possible.
And then just maybe finally, on an ongoing basis, daily basis, what types of prep do you do? Any planning you need to do, or also kind of throughout the course of the school year, what have you found helpful in terms of support from other teachers, interacting with other teachers?
Collaborating, having the opportunity to collaborate with other teachers is amazing. When you put your minds together, you can come up with so many more ideas and even refine good ideas that you already had. Unfortunately, I haven't had anybody with whom I could collaborate because no other 7th grade teachers are doing this. But with our periodic meetings with the other 5th grade teachers, we've come up with some great ideas together, or I've taken from them, they've taken from me, and incorporated those where appropriate. But I've kind of been flying solo. So I'm looking forward to having some other teachers come on board so we can talk and we can brainstorm and come up with good ideas and ways to use this and implement this, because I'm kind of getting tired of my own ideas, quite frankly. But collaborating with other teachers is huge and can make it a whole lot better. Really.
Tim Morrison and Manola Mora to the office.
He's
please.
one of
Ms.
mine.
Morrison, Manola Mora, to the office.
Let's see, what was I talking about? Collaboration. As far as planning and planning lessons, eventually the Khan Academy will be aligned to the, probably not the state content standards, but the Common Core standards, and that will really help teachers make things fast. They could look at what objective they're teaching and say, okay, these modules, these videos cover it. What I've had to do this year is a lot of working through things myself and seeing exactly where is this taught, how does he teach it, how does it align. So I've done a lot of that work myself this year, which has been time consuming but enjoyable because I feel like I've gotten to know a lot about the Khan Academy because I've worked through it myself that I otherwise wouldn't have gotten to know. So it is time consuming, but it's very much worth it because you get an idea of how he's teaching. So when a student comes to you with a question, and depending on what they're working on, students could be working on 20 different topics. And so you need to be ready to address those issues or those questions or whatever. And so you have to be thinking about all kinds of math concepts all at once. And so that's a challenge for a teacher. So,
Ladies and gentlemen who are in the spring fling, there is a dress rehearsal in the multi, and it should be happening any moment. Thank you.
so I highly recommend that teachers work through the modules and at least work through their grade level curriculum-wise. So they are familiar with it. They know what their students are experiencing and even watch the videos related to their content to give you some ideas, other ideas of how to teach. One of the things I've also done, I've added all of my students as my coach. So they can all see my data and they can see what I'm working on and what modules I've completed. And so that's motivated a lot of my students because
Twila, would you please come to the office? Twila.
that having my students as my coach has motivated many of my students because they're able to see me as a learner in the context of a learner and not just a teacher as well. So that's something that's been fun for them. Did I answer that question? We got so many interruptions, I can't remember what the question was. Sorry about that.
No, and just in closing, anything else you'd like to share?
Actually, could I speak to active listening just
Yeah,
real
yes,
quick?
please,
Because
please,
that's
please.
what we did today. I would recommend that teachers work with their students early on when using the Khan Academy with regard to active listening. What I found is my students tend to put in the earbuds and they go on autopilot, cruise control, they're not paying attention, and they get finished with a 10-minute video and they look at you and they say, I still don't get it. And they haven't listened to a word that Sal Khan has said. And so one of the things I highly recommend is that you model active listening for your students. You project a video on the screen, you pause it, you do some predicting, you draw, conclusions, you draw parallels between what they've learned before and what he's teaching now, and just teach the kids how, oh wait, I didn't quite get this. It's okay to rewind. Oh wait, I didn't quite get this. It's okay to pause and think about it. And teach them some of those skills. And I think that would greatly help the students be more autonomous when using the Khan Academy and really be able to learn from the videos. It'll also help them in class to start practicing those active listening skills and not just tuning out. So I think that's a huge part. I mean, in addition to the peer tutoring, I think the active listening is probably one of the most important things you can model and you can teach your students when using the Khan Academy. And this is a skill that they can use in all facets of their education and life, quite frankly. So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Sure. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.